Hello. I am just so excited for those who are authors. We love to read, we love to write, we love to learn new things. And so I have had this book for a while. It's called 50 American Women of Courage and Vision. And I am just going to read some of the stories that are in here about some of the different women who have changed people's lives, like Daisy Bates. It said until the mid 1950s, black and white students who lived in the southern United States were not allowed to go to the same schools. Schools for whites usually had enough books and other supplies, well trained teachers, and free bus transportation, but schools for blacks rarely had these things. Daisy Bates not only saw this as unfair, she worked hard to help bring about a change. Her efforts in the civil rights movement made it possible for all children in the United States to receive an equal education and regardless of the color of their skin. And hopefully you can see it. There's a picture of her. We go to school and sometimes we don't hear anything about Black history or what someone has done. But her name is Daisy Bates, and she was a civil rights activist from 1914 to 1999. Then we have Avia Gibson, tennis champion, born 1927 through 2003. Until the mid 20th century, African American athletes were not allowed to participate in many amateur and professional sporting competitions in the United States. The major teams and tournaments in the country were open only to white players. However, in the late 1940s and early 1950s, black players such as baseballs, Jackie Robinson, and tennis, Avia Gibson, crossed the color line. Many athletes of color were allowed to compete with other top players from around the world on the tennis court. Avia Gibson proved that she was an exceptional athlete. Avia Gibson was born on August 25th, 1927, in Silver, South Carolina. Her family, which was poor, moved to New York City in 1930. And in New York, Avia had trouble in school. She did not like going to classes and often skipped school. She always got in trouble for it when she got home. But this is Avia. Good morning, DW Child, church girl. Good morning. I just want to talk about history today because, sometimes we go to school and they're trying to get rid of history. And whatever I can do to make sure we all know about our history. And I say our, I didn't say black, I say our, because we part of this history too. So that's why I didn't put black history, I put our history, because we are connected in this too. And so that is Avia Gibson. And she was famous for tennis back in her day. Then we have Fannie Lou Hamer, civil rights activist from 1917 to 1977. During the 1960s and 1970s, Fannie Lou Hamer fought to end political and social discrimination faced by Black Americans in the South. When Hamer spoke, people listened, including President Lyndon B. Johnson. Hamer was one of the leading civil rights activists in the United States. Fannie Lou Townsend was born on October 6, 1917, in Roeville, Mississippi. She was the youngest of 20 children. When she was 6, Fannie Lou joined the rest of the family picking cotton in the fields of a wealthy plantation owner. The Townsends were sharecroppers, which meant that they worked in the fields planting and harvesting crops for the owner of the plantation. And in return for their work, the Townsends were given a percentage of the profits. Although this may seem like a fair arrangement, it was not, and you know it wasn't, because the cotton field, it allowed us to put these clothes on and our hats and everything that we had to cover our bodies. That's what that cotton was used for covering. So you know they shouldn't have got more than what they got. But this is Fannie Lou Hammer. Fannie Lou Hammer. Then we have Mae Jemison, doctor, engineer, and astronaut. When she was young, Mae Jemison knew that she wanted to go into space. She studied hard and became a doctor, then an engineer. Then in her 30s, Jemison joined NASA, and headed into space, proving to the world that dreams can come true. She has continued to work in the science by starting several companies devoted to advanced technology. She also encourages youth to get involved in science through educational programs such as the Earth We Share, TEWS. Becoming a scientist, Mae Coral Jemison was born on October 17, 1956, in Alabama. She was the youngest of three children and moved to Chicago with her family when she was 3 years old. During her childhood, she was interested in science, including the study of people, anthropology, the study of civilizations, archaeology, the study of space, and astronaut. Hey, TJ, thank you. It says such subjects were often more appealing to boys than girls, but Mae liked science and decided to make it her career. When Mae was just 16, she began attending Stanford University, studying African American history and chemical engineering. After graduation in 1977, she went to medical school at Cornell University. While studying to become a doctor, Mae visited several developing nations. So this lady traveled, you hear me? And is this is Mae Jemison. See it? Right there. Black astronaut, y'all. Black astronaut. Then we got Margaret Mead. She's an anthropologist, born 1901 to 1978. Margaret Mead was a pioneer in the field of anthropology, the study of people and their culture. Anthropology first came on the scene in the early 1900s as people began to travel away from their home. And as they traveled, they encountered new cultures, some similar to theirs and some very different. Margaret Mead dedicated her life to learning about new people and then using their wisdom to educate the world. And that's what we need to do. We need to learn how to just, okay, what kind of similarities do we have? And what makes us different? And how can we get along? And this is what she did. She traveled all over because she knew there was a world bigger than her. And her name is Margaret Mead. There she go. Margaret Mead. Oh, thank you, Patrice. Thank you. Then you got Wilma Woodruff, track and field star, born 1940 through 1994. Wilma was a sickly child, often confined to bed. Childhood diseases had left her weak and without the use of one of her legs. Yet she was determined to overcome her disability. Rudolph learned to walk without a leg brace. then went on to become one of the most famous runners in the world. She weighed only 4.5 pounds when she was born. While still a child, she survived scarlet fever, pneumonia, and polio. Polio was a disease that affected her spinal cord and her legs. Women came from a large family, and her brothers and sisters tried to help her by massaging her legs. She also took physical therapy to make her legs work. Woman used a leg brace to help her walk. As she grew older, she got stronger and stronger in using her legs. And this is Wilma, became a runner. Some people, they have disabilities and they just don't let their disabilities stop them. And that's why when I told my children, because I got two deaf children, I told them when they was little, I said, let me tell you something. In this world, they don't care you got a disability. I said, because once I'm gone, you got to learn how to live in this world by yourself. And I trained my children there, and I'm glad I did. I did not allow their disability stop them. Now they are adults. They have traveled all over the world, literally. They have passports. They have traveled all over the world, literally, without me. And I just give God a praise for being with them, traveling with them. I did not make an excuse for them. I didn't say, well, whoa, you can't do this, you can't do that. No, I say, you can do all things through Christ who has strengthened me. That's what I taught my children. And they just travel. I'm just proud of God allowing me to be their mother and to see the fruits, hallelujah, of what they're doing. It's amazing. It's amazing. And people always call me and say, I can't believe your children doing this and doing that. I said, that's God. And I give God all credit. We got Elder B. Wells Barnett. She went against anti-lynching crusade. She was an anti-lynching crusader, and she was born in 1862 through 1931. Elder B. Wells Barnett saw terrible tension between whites and blacks in the Mississippi after the Civil War. After African Americans had just been freed from slavery, and many Southern whites resented them. Wells Barnett was discriminated against not only because of her race, but also her gender. She devoted her life to improving the treatment of African Americans and women in the U.S. Always a fighter, was born during the Civil War only on July the 16th, 1862. She had a tough time in school. She didn't like school. And most slave owners had denied slaves in any school, and so many former slaves could not read or write. It was hard to start a business or farms on their own because they had little money, and they had worked for years as slaves and received no payment. But she was determined to change this. She became a teacher at the age of 14. So here's a sketch of Ida B. Wells Barnett. There's a sketch of her right there, of Ida. And I'm telling you, Ida probably would have just turned over because she went against the government and she fought them. She said, we need to stop lynching folks. And she wanted that to stop. And you would have thought all this had changed, through the years. But those who've been paying attention to government and history, like I do, because that's all I do is pay attention to it. The anti-lynching law didn't come into effect until 2022. Isn't that sad? Yeah. We had to wait to 2022 for a law to pass to say it is against the law to lynch. That's why people were lynching, because it was not against the law. You would have thought they would have looked at it as murder, but they didn't. So we had to wait to 2022 to wait for it to become against the law. Isn't that sad? But thank you for being with me. I am going to do like 15 minutes of increments because I know a lot of people's attention span is not long. So I am going to stop this, take a break, and then come back with some more history. Or history, okay? All right. Thank you for supporting me. I love y'all. I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be back in a few minutes.